resume. From Eugene, Oregon, Land Banking for Affordable Housing with Kitty Piercy and Stephanie Jennings. Thank you both for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity, and we're honored to be here today to present Eugene's Land Banking Program for Affordable Housing. In our view, an innovation starts with knowing the problem that you want to solve, a vision for the results you want to achieve, and a use of a fresh approach to get you there. Only through further refinement and demonstrable results can a promising idea be transformed into an innovative and replicable program. Eugene's Land Banking Program for Affordable Housing is a true innovation. This forward-thinking approach allows for greater control over land costs, superior choices for sites, and appropriate timing for development. Our land banking model dramatically strengthens the development process and end products, benefits for residents, and the cumulative community impact. We have expanded housing opportunities through this approach and believe it could be used in other places to help address this nationwide crisis we all face. The seed for the land banking program was planted back in 1967 when Eugene city and community leaders identified a shortage of homes for people of modest means. Furthermore, they determined the city should create housing opportunities across the entire community that would provide choices for low-income residents and avoid concentrating poverty in poor neighborhoods. These leaders identified land acquisition as a crucial step to achieve this goal, started allocating funds, and the land banking model started to grow. In 1979, Eugene purchased its first land bank site. From the beginning, we carefully considered the suitability of each site prior to purchase. The city also created a competitive and transparent selection process to allocate sites that has resulted in public buy-in, coordinated and efficient use of funding resources, and a competitive process that rewards good performance. Continued care and attention to detail has allowed this program to bloom again and again. We have leveraged our relationships with private, public, and institutional partners to acquire over 90 acres of land. Today, we have 20 developments with over 700 units of affordable housing completed or underway on land bank sites. And the last point I would like to make before Stephanie speaks, as mayor, is my belief that Eugene must expand our housing and homelessness programs, and so over the next year, I'm heading up a Blue Ribbon Committee to make this goal a reality. Stephanie?
Thank you, Mayor Piercy. The land banking program is the cornerstone of Eugene's affordable housing strategy and offers many lessons that can be applied in communities large and small. Our nation's need for affordable housing is enormous, but we know that quick solutions only create problems for the future. Again and again, housing experts have called for a housing system that creates choices for low-income people. The serious consequences of concentrated poverty have been well documented, yet few communities have successful strategies for dispersing affordable housing. Our nation's current approach for affordable housing has resulted in many good projects, but the cumulative impacts have reinforced neighborhood disparities. Even this system is compromised as land costs soar in many communities, and developers are faced with purchasing marginal parcels or nothing at all. Cities need to take a more active role in order to break this mold and expand affordable housing opportunities for the future. Leaders like Henry Cisneros and Mayor Bloomberg are calling for action to make more land available for affordable housing. In fact, the City of New York recently launched a land banking program to acquire such sites. We also know that many municipalities are starting to offer city-owned parcels for development, but these are chance occurrences rather than intentional strategies. Local governments need an example of a proactive approach that expands development opportunities, controls land costs, and creates quality affordable housing throughout our communities. In response to this challenge, we offer Eugene's Land Banking Program for affordable housing. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we have a series of questions with Ellen, Bill, Carl, and then David.
So I actually want to follow up on the last point you made, which is that you have an example, and you've had 20-some years of the example being in place, but not yet a lot of replicability, and other people haven't followed. Do you have any thoughts about why that might be and what might shift it in the future?
What I told Stephanie, if you asked that question, was I'd say she wasn't there yet.
Right.
And that's because in our community, I think in our community, we thought it was being replicated in other places. We just assumed other people must be doing this, and it was Stephanie coming with her expertise in this area from across the country saying, no, this is a unique thing that you're doing, and you ought to share it, and you ought to see it gets replicated. And so that's why we're here today. Thank you.
Bill?
Just to follow up on
Sorry.
that briefly, I think that there are examples where places people are starting to offer city-owned parcels for property for affordable housing development. They're seeing an incredible need. And I was just talking with the folks from Seattle about their efforts to try to create more opportunities. So this need is right now, and people are understanding that cities have to intervene in order to actually create more affordable housing opportunities for the future. So I think there's a piece of timeliness about this issue as well.
And I guess we'd say that our city next door is taking this up too. So.
Bill?
The program obviously relies heavily, if maybe not even exclusively, on CDBG funding. Are there any prospects of expanding resources for funding for the program?
I'll start out the answer by saying from the beginning there's been a 25% match from non-CBDG funding. So in fact, from the very beginning, we've understood that there needed to be other resources that brought to the table. And as we look out into the future, we actually acquire park space and things like that for the city that we think are very valuable, and there's no reason this couldn't be that same kind of effort on our part.
Yeah, Carl?
Now that, as you indicated, land prices are soaring, and so the low-hanging fruit of opportunity is at least absolutely, maybe not relatively, disappearing. What strategies are you using now to continue to bring inventory into the system, and to what extent are you facing resistance from neighborhoods which perhaps at this point aren't so welcoming of affordable housing now that their own land costs and housing are rising in value?
Over time, the city has adopted a variety of strategies, working with institutional partners, working to acquire both unimproved properties and underdeveloped properties. And those have taken place in developing neighborhoods as well as existing neighborhoods. And so as we look to the future, we are going to have to be more creative in terms of looking to work with our partners. We are going to have to look not just at vacant parcels, but parcels that might have an underutilized apartment complex that needs to be redeveloped, or some piece of right-of-way that is appropriate for affordable housing. In terms of neighborhood resistance, the city's program has really tackled some of those issues through continued attention to detail, quality of affordable housing. We have a very public process for both the purchase of the sites, and that is where the first step of education begins, and neighbors can learn about other affordable housing developments that have already been created. And then the second piece is through the competitive selection process, where the neighborhood actually plays a role in the selection of the developer for that particular parcel. So there are multiple opportunities for them to learn and be involved and have their voices heard.
Right. David?
I have a question about replicability. It seems to me the key innovation here is that you disperse the affordable housing sites around the city into all kinds of different neighborhoods. And according to our site visitor, that's actually unique. We wonder to what degree that's because Eugene is different than most cities. I mean, Eugene is a university town, has this University of Oregon there, which makes it a very progressive place. It also doesn't have a wide dispersal of incomes. That is, there aren't a lot of really poor neighborhoods and a lot of really wealthy neighborhoods in Eugene compared to a lot of other cities. Given those two realities, is it possible that it's easier to do in Eugene and wouldn't be replicable in a lot of American cities?
If you can be brief too, please.
I'll take a small shot at, and then Stephanie. But what I would say is, I think we've demonstrated over and over again in our community that you build really good-looking, low-cost housing, and you can't tell it from the rest of the neighborhood, and that sets the pace for what people find acceptable in their neighborhoods. Maybe we are unique, but we have an awful lot of people who are very, very poor. This is aimed at very, very poor people.
Are these mostly working and poor families rather than students?
This is not student housing.
Yeah.
This is for low-income families. To address your question, I believe that we have the lack of disparity in neighborhood incomes because of this program. And I would also say that I've worked in a lot of different communities across the United States, and there really is a need for cities to take a proactive approach. And I would say that the pendulum is swinging and that they are seeing opportunities to do that. It is the need to have an example put in front of them that says, wow, this can actually work, and we can implement this kind of program in our own community that will make a difference.
All right. Thank you all both very much.